Welcome to another edition of the Short Track Podcast with Chris Miller once again in his grandma's spare bedroom.
Hey, everyone.
Great setting here. And on today's podcast, we have my boss, General Manager of Western Speedway, Daryl Crocker. Daryl, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule here in the last few days before race season to talk with us.
Hey, thank you guys very much. This is a really cool deal that you guys have started. Good for racing in general, especially Western Speedway, and I'm happy to be here.
Obviously, you got the Western Speedway season opener coming up on Saturday, but you got the Enduro on the Friday. Maybe talk about a bit about the upcoming weekend's events.
Yeah, so we've got a 200 lap or 2 hour Enduro on Friday night. It's fun for the racers. It kind of serves as a soft opening for us. We get the concessions up and running, some of our new employees. We get them worked in on a slower night, and then opening night, we expect to have a quite large crowd and really try to start the season off right with fireworks and a total destruction, rollover contest, boat races, and as well as our full demo show.
Yeah, obviously the list goes on and on. What kind of work are you having to put in here in the last few days? Obviously, quite a lot going into getting the track ready and all the racers happy with the lead up to the opening night.
Yeah, every year before the season starts, we try to take on a few more projects to try and spruce the place up a little bit. We've done a little bit of work in the men's bathroom in the infield. You'll notice a change in there. We've added some more billboard signs again in turn 3. Have some more advertising partners that'll be going up there. Lots of general maintenance, painting and stuff like that. We've got a really good team of people that work for us at the Speedway and keep the place trying to keep it looking as nice as possible.
Obviously, we talk about you as the general manager of the Speedway, but you did race before. Maybe explain how you got into racing. Obviously, your dad was involved with Daryl and the Midgley family.
Yeah, my dad Glenn and Daryl Midgley have raced together since 1985. So I was 1 year old when they started racing together, and I've kind of just always done it my whole life. And and then I worked pretty closely with the previous manager, George Wade. He taught me a ton of stuff, and when it was time for George to move on and do his thing at Wenatchee, it was just kind of a natural progression for me to move into his role and try to do as good a job as he did.
This is year 4?
3 for me as the manager.
So what have you learned over the years of each year? You're getting a little bit better at it, or is everything goes smoother?
Yeah, I don't know if everything goes smoother, but I'm a big believer in happy racers. Yeah. So I really try my best to keep everybody in the infield happy, because I believe when we've got happy racers that they do things like this. Yeah. You guys are promoting for us at Western Speedway by doing this podcast, and we have lots of racers that are telling their friends and family all the time, come to Western Speedway. It's a great place for family fun, and we see the difference in the crowds because of it.
Yeah.
There's only one of me. I can advertise as much as I can, but when we've got 200 happy racers that are helping me with that job, it really shows up in the grandstands.
Yeah, bringing their friends and everyone to watch them race and stuff. It definitely, you can see how that helps.
Yeah, no, it's and our crowds keep growing each year. We've definitely learned a little bit about placement in the year for different shows and stuff. This will be our second year starting the season off with a big demo show.
Yeah.
That show previously was in June, and we were just a little bit too busy through the end of May, June, early July, even through July with those shows. So we pulled one out and put it at the beginning of the season, and it worked very well for us last year.
Right on.
Yeah, so maybe talk about kind of the challenges of scheduling all these different events in such a kind of a short time frame when you look at the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, the scheduling can definitely be a bit of a nightmare. We're fortunate that a lot of our classes are kind of specific to our track. But when you get into scheduling monster truck shows, those guys, they travel all over the place, so you got to make sure you secure your dates early. And then when you deal with the touring shows like the AMCA Dwarf cars, they've been very good to deal with, but you got to make sure you get those dates and talk to them early. And then the hardest of all is the wing sprint car stuff, because there's 3 or 4 different organizations or racetracks trying to get the same cars to come to their races. So that can be difficult, but we always seem to manage. I'm looking forward to it this year.
Now, you mentioned the wing sprint cars. Obviously, the Wayne Strucking wing sprint cars, wing super sprints started up last year. Maybe start talking about kind of how that came about and trying to reinvigorate the local wing pavement sprint car scene here on Vancouver Island.
Yeah, that was Wayne Richmond from Wayne's Trucking and Guy Barrett. They were the real push behind that. They both love wing sprint car racing. And they approached me not too long after the 2016 season and, kind of asked whether I'd be open to pursuing it. And they brought a pretty strong case to the table, so it was pretty hard to say no. Wayne stepped up and sponsored the series, and Guy Barrett had a good set of rules. I couldn't find too many holes in it. I tried, but he answered all the questions, which was good. And they worked really hard and, kind of got quite a few people to buy into the program, and more again this year. So I'm really looking forward to that. Greater Victoria fans of Western Speedway are typically open wheel fans, so and especially wing sprint car fans. So having a few more wing sprint car races is a good thing for the racing community around here.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like wing sprint cars.
Yeah, I mean, I'm through and through a late model guy as far as working on them and everything that I've done through my life, but I love wing sprint car racing.
Yeah.
Now, again, you mentioned that, but late models and wrenching on the cars yourself. Maybe talk a bit about your kind of dabble in racing and how that all kind of got kicked off.
I started driving in 2007. I ran Hornet cars for 3 years, I guess it was. And then in amongst that time, I ran a mini stock race. I drove Brandon Carlson's stock car one time in, I think that was 2009 or something. 09 or might have been 08, I can't remember. And then started sharing a stock car with Steve Kopp. And then in 2010 was my first full stock car season, and I ran through till the end of the 2013 season, and haven't raced since then.
Do you think that maybe that racing background kind of gives you a little bit more of a perspective on what the guys in the infield have to deal with and getting their cars to the track and on a nightly basis, and it's kind of helps you in your current position?
I think so, for sure. I still race myself as a crew guy, and work on cars. Not necessarily cars that race at Western Speedway anymore, but with Daryl Midgley out of town and Brandon Carlson. So I can relate to the blood, sweat, and tears that all those racers are putting into their cars, whether it's a Hornet car or a demo car or a late model or a sprint car. To each one of those people, those cars are their passion, whether it's low level or high level. So, and you have to appreciate that. They're all probably spending more money than they really have on it and more time than they really should put into it. So, it takes all of those people to make the racetrack go round.
What advice would you give someone that's just starting out or just looking to get into racing?
I think the biggest key for people that want to get into racing is finding a good team or family to crew with. I'm a big believer in being a crew person before you get into racing as far as trying to drive, because you need to learn the basics at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
You need to know how to work on the cars, and once you kind of have that base knowledge, then you can evolve into racing yourself. I've seen so many people, the allure of racing and it being so cool, they just want to drive, but they don't have any of the background knowledge to be successful. You need to know how to work on the cars and then try driving them.
Yeah, it definitely helps when you crash, like every person will do eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be able to fix your car is pretty important if you want to keep racing.
Yeah, on the topic of crash, I think you left out a very short portion of your career with a certain open wheel vehicle.
Yeah, I did. I was supposed to run a Wilrock non-wing sprint car, but I ended up flipping down the front stretch over top of the flag stand. So it was in practice, all by myself. So it was a very short sprint car career.
Hey, our family dummied 2 cars this year, so we've all been there.
Yeah, obviously that was one of not the best probably racing moment there. But did you ever figure out how you managed to do that?
No, I'm sure it was just something that I did wrong.
He doesn't want to know.
Exactly.
I think I have another question here somewhere. Being a driver, what was your favorite track to race at? Obviously, this is a biased question because you're running Western now. So
yeah, I really didn't race too many places personally. I've raced at Western, obviously. I ran one race at Saratoga, one race in Las Vegas, and I ran Penticton a couple of times. Overall, I love racing at Western Speedway. Yeah. The characteristics of the track are challenging.
Yeah, so, for sure.
Winning races at Western Speedway is something to be proud of. But I really, really enjoyed running the Gordy Manis weekend in Penticton as well. That's some pretty fond memories up there.
So what are some tracks that you visited that you kind of could take away different things to maybe incorporate at Western Speedway? Is there any, obviously every track you can kind of maybe get an idea of something that you can bring back to Western?
From a promoter's perspective?
Yeah, definitely from a promoter's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I was recently at Evergreen Speedway in Monroe, Washington, and they do a lot of neat things there. They've got such a huge area. They can do lots of fun things for kids. They had a fun little play area, and they just do a really good job with their extra promotions. Something that we try to do, but they're on such a larger scale than us that it was neat to see what they were able to do with those extra promotions. So that's something that would be neat to try to pursue.
Yeah, and with that being said, is there a track out there that kind of impresses you with how they run their events and how their night goes off? From
promotion side of things, I think Evergreen does a very, very good job as far as the running of the show and keeping the flow of it and dealing with the situations through the night as far as crashes or oil downs or anything like that. It's pretty tough to compete with the people at Western Speedway.
Yeah, you got a good crew there.
We're super fortunate. We've got some excellent tow truck drivers with Dave Reside and our race director Rob Haslam, Richard Milne that helps us in the pits, and Steve Peckford and BJ Veld and Lester and Bill Monroe, everybody in there.
People that have been around for a long time too.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what makes them so good is they've pretty much done it all at this point.
Yeah, and everyone gets along very well. And last year we had to deal with a lot of different circumstances, not all good, and we were very fortunate to get through all those things, and I put a lot of stock in the people that we have out there for being able to do that.
What keeps you coming back every weekend? Like what makes Daryl Crocker want to keep doing this?
The challenge.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, it's a challenge to keep racers happy, and it's impossible to keep them all happy. But I love that challenge of trying to keep them happy. I love that challenge of trying to think of new ways to get people in the grandstands. It keeps my mind so active all the time. I lay awake at night, thinking about these things, just trying to make it better all the time.
So what's one promotion that you guys tried that maybe you thought was going to be a success and kind of flopped?
That's a good question. I don't know if there's one that really stands out.
I think over the past 3 seasons, you've done a great job at getting that people back in the stands, and just from my perspective from the pits is like, wow, there's a lot of people in the stands now. Whereas before 3 or 4 years ago, you kind of seen it dwindling down, and even the car counts weren't. I think that's another big thing is there are most of the classes are 20 plus cars at this point.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff we can't really take credit for. It's economy driven for sure. When people have more spare money, there's more race cars. But we've definitely worked hard with the promotions to get people into the grandstands. Last year we did a lot more TV advertising. We partnered up with Czech TV and really kind of hit it pretty hard on the TV stuff, and they're great to work with. And we saw the benefits of doing that. So we're going to continue to do that this year.
So what do you guys have planned for the future? Is there any big kind of plans for the Speedway? Anything you guys, even smaller plans that you want to try and incorporate into the schedule or into the actual everyday Friday and Saturday night stuff at the Speedway?
I don't think there's any big plans. I like the schedule we have right now. I just want to always try to do the best job of what we have planned. So, our big races like the Daffodil Cup, work on making sure we have lots of wing sprint cars for the Daffodil Cup. Work on making sure we have lots of late models for the Canada 200. Lots of wing sprint cars for the Strawberry Cup. We've the last couple of years we've had the AMCA dwarf cars, which kind of highlights the dwarf cars for a weekend, which is neat for them. This year we're going to include the old timers in that weekend and highlight them one of the nights because that's a really strong class right now. There's a lot of good people in that class, and they've really helped grow it, and it's in a good place right now. So I think it's important to just try to do a good job of what we have going on and not lose sight of that, trying to strive for bigger, better things that, we don't really know whether they'd work or not.
So, sorry. Let's get into some stories here. What is the strangest thing that you've seen at the track, whether it be from a driver's perspective or promoters or just being in the pits crewing? And
he doesn't have to name names here because he has to keep everybody happy.
And this is all allegedly as well.
The weirdest thing I've seen.
Some shoddy backyard engineering. What's maybe the thing that made you scratch your head?
Or even most? Like a wicked crash that the guy got. Brad Almond's crash.
Yeah, Brad's crash. That was a pretty good one. I think the how many cars was it, Cole, that we had go through the gate in turn one there last year? Like
5, and it was consecutive.
Yeah,
it was like every single weekend.
Yeah, the streak of that happening, that was weird. Yeah, that ranks right up there.
Who was driving that 12 sprint car that
Ronnie,
he almost
Ronnie
made it
Larson,
back out?
Yeah, Ron Larson.
We were up in the back straight by the Richlock Reynolds sign there, and I think he was attempting to drive it back through, but the gate was locked.
Yeah, and then who else? We had Mike Schott.
Yeah,
he went in there.
That was an interesting interview.
Yeah.
Didn't someone hit the gate was closed and someone rammed into it?
Yeah. Mike Haslam, he went back
there.
Yeah,
Canada 200, he went and
and then Craig Holfeld, he went through there and hit his own personal truck.
Yeah, he was not happy with me mentioning that. So
no, yeah, Craig was not. I don't blame him for not being
exactly.
happy about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. You got anything? Let's go to the cheat sheet.
Chris, bringing out the cheat sheet here.
I didn't make one for Daryl, so bear with me here.
We're gonna
that was a dumb one.
Really dig through the cheat sheet here, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, is there anything that you didn't get to drive that you would have loved to climb into?
I would love to race a late model. I kind of start and parked a late model one night, practiced it a little bit, and enjoyed that. When I was my last season of stock cars, I felt like, as far as driving ability, I was ready to move up to a late model.
Yeah.
But it's just that much more money and time and everything. It just wasn't the right timing, and I'm really happy doing what I do now. I still have the itch to race, and who knows, I might one day, but right now my focus is definitely doing what I'm doing.
What advice do you give to guys that maybe are looking to jump up into a new class or change their direction of their racing careers?
Everything in racing is a huge commitment, and you have to do it for the right reasons. Your family's a great example. You've always done it as a family, so you can lean on each other. You've got good support. You've got good experience behind you. You need to have those things. It doesn't always have to be family, but you have to have friends or crew members. If you're looking to move up, you have to have that support, and you have to make sure that you can afford it.
Yeah, that's huge.
You don't want to race over your head, because you're going to end up not racing at all, and that's not good for you, and it's not good for the racetrack. If you race over your head, you're going to get partway through a season, realize you've spent more money than you should, and you have to pack it up.
Yeah.
And now, we don't have that car, and we don't have the car in the class that you moved out of.
Yeah, we talked about this with Jeff Morris as well. The whole sponsorship thing, and how some racers have done that before, and I got a couple in my head that I'm not going to name that have took sponsorship money and then raced 2-3 races and said, I can't do this, I'm going to park the car, and they've already took the money and run kind of thing, and it really puts a dark cloud on racing, and which doesn't help out your competitors or the track or anyone. No. So
you should always budget properly. Sponsors are hugely important to the whole racing community, whether it's the advertisers that we have at the Speedway with all the billboards and everything else, or for the racers on the cars themselves. Those people are spending their hard-earned money to advertise on your car, so that's a commitment to them, and you have to really respect them and make sure you do the proper job for them.
So how do you as a promoter sell kind of the whole Western Speedway package to potential marketing partners?
We've got some statistics and numbers as far as attendance and different things like that. But the biggest thing that I've found with taking care of the advertising at the Speedway is just be honest. You know, I can't tell an advertiser that I know what return they're going to get. Some advertisers get great returns. Others don't even care what return they get. They just do it because they love the Speedway and they want to support it. And then you kind of have everywhere in between. So just making sure that you take care of them where you can, and appreciate them, and just give them good, honest information on what's going on, and that seems to work for us.
So what's a favorite racing memory that you have, either with promoting or driving, that maybe, you know, necessarily if it's on the driving side wasn't a win, just maybe a good memory?
Well, I really didn't race for that long. The Gordy Manas weekend in Penticton, it got rained out one night, so they gave us a 125 lap main event up there for the second day. That was a lot of fun. There was one caution early on, then it went pretty much green to checkered after that, and it was a super hot day. And you know, running a race for that long and that kind of heat, it was a pretty hard thing to do, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
And yeah, maybe on a promoter's side, what's kind of been a thing that stuck out to you is maybe that, going back and looking like, hey, that was cool that we kind of pulled that off, or that this happened the way that we wanted it to.
There's been so many the last couple of years that and it all goes back to that team of people that I was talking about, being proud of them and what we can do as far as getting the number of racers in any particular night. You know, we don't schedule ourselves light on any night. It's always a challenge for us to get everything in and get everybody out of there at a decent time. But the Hydroforce Championship night, the last 2 seasons, that's one that I'm pretty proud of. That was something that I kind of came up with and implemented the first year, and obviously Crazy Way in the Train's been a huge part of that, and it's been very successful for us the last couple of years, and it's really neat to end the season on a high note like that, because it's what we all talk about all winter long, and it kind of keeps a buzz of the Speedway going throughout the winter months.
How nervous were you going into that first year of promoting? Am I going to botch this, or was there any nerves at all, or you pretty confident?
No, there's definitely nerves. There's still nerves. Yeah. Anytime that we're leading up to the start of the season, or any event that we have a lot riding on, I still have nerves for sure, but just try to be as prepared as possible. Make sure you don't forget anything, and hopefully weather cooperates, and everything else aligns, and just do the best we can. We've just got such a good group of people that help us at the track, that they I don't know if they make it easy for me, but I surely wouldn't want to do it without them.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about, I know we just had the Hall of Fame induction this last weekend at the track. Why don't you talk about, I know that Will Rocks have chassis seminar coming up on Wednesday, I think it is?
Yeah, Wednesday, weather permitting, they're going to do a chassis seminar in the infield, and then they're actually going to do some on-track practice as well. That's something that your dad, Chris, was obviously a huge push behind, and Tim Openshaw and Sherry Conway and the whole Will Rock group really got behind, and it was very well received last year. Ken Haskell from A&A, he came out and went over all the basics and really helped some people that were just getting into the class. accelerate the learning curve, and it's just a really neat thing, even for people that aren't in sprint car racing. There were some people there last year that just were interested, and they came out to learn.
Yeah, I think when my dad kind of started that, and his reason being was because when James, his first year in sprint cars, we were kind of like way over our heads in the knowing what to do department. I mean, we had it set up like a wing sprint car at one point and just wasn't working, and we didn't really know who to ask or who, because some people, they'll tell you, but they won't tell you.
Yeah.
So my dad kind of said, like, hey, if we want to get this car count up, like, we gotta help each other out, and let's teach these guys. Let's make sprint car racing less intimidating, to make that jump from stock cars or late models to this open wheel beast.
Yeah, and I mean that was just a great idea, and it seems to be working well. It was well received, and I think it's they're trying to expand on it this year by hopefully doing some on track stuff, so people can see with their own eyes the difference that the certain changes make. And Will Rock's also starting to try to bring some young drivers into the class. Tim Openshaw and Dave Smith and Todd Hikus, I think, are the main driving forces behind that. And I think that's really cool. Tim's stepping out of the driver's seat this year and going to put a young fella in there. I don't know how many people would do the things that Tim's doing for the betterment of racing and sprint car racing particularly, to give the seat up and field the car still, just in an effort to get some young drivers into the class. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. I don't know if I'd do it.
Yeah.
The car's not cheap, but it's a great idea, and I hopefully really it works, because like new blood, fresh blood is always good.
Yeah, for if we want to continue having the strong racing community that we have to get young kids involved. Yeah. There's we got to keep the generations coming through. There's no other way. It's not sustainable otherwise. It
also opens up like new ideas as well. I find that with the old timers now, we're getting younger as well, and we're people are starting to put in their thoughts on new ideas, and I mean, like, take this for example. If we wouldn't be sitting here if there was a bunch of old guys running the show, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, fresh blood's always a good thing.
It is. It absolutely is. the mix of people in the old timers right now is very crazy, broad. Hey? It's pretty cool. There's there's very, very fast cars. There's cars that aren't as fast. There's very experienced people. There's people with not very much experience. Males, females. It's a pretty cool class.
It's kind of scary sometimes, but it's fun.
Yeah, interesting looking from the stands. And Joe, you want to plug some upcoming events at the Speedway here as we get the season kicked off?
Yeah, obviously we've got the Slag Building Materials opening night of Mayhem. In that night, we're going to have West Shore Towing Fan Fest, and then we're going to have West Shore Spring and 4x4 presenting the boat race. We're going to have Malahat Metal Recycling presenting the Total Destruction. We've got Greater Victoria Services presenting the rollover contest. Lordco coming back for, I think it's got to be at least their 5th year of sponsoring the demo series. And Howie's Car Corral came on board this year to sponsor the Bomber series. So all cool things that we're going to see on opening night. And then we're going to roll into we've got our Market on Millstream monster trucks at the end of May with freestyle motocross, and then a new one this year that we're doing on June 9th. Instead of doing our team demo that we've done the last few years. We're just going to do a big full-size car total destruction. Triangle RV sponsors that night, and Baker Brothers Performance has stepped up, and they're going to sponsor the total destruction itself. And there's a lot of buzz about that night. There's a lot of people working behind the scenes on getting a really good car count for a big total destruction, which is something that we haven't had at Western Speedway in a long, long time. And I think it's going to be a pretty cool night. I think it's going to be something different that we've seen for a long time, and I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, that'll definitely be cool if we can get a huge car count of the full cars out there in the front straight all smashing into each other.
Yeah, I'm not a expert when it comes to total destructions or demos or anything like that. I've got some good people like BJ Val that help me with that stuff. And I think if we have enough cars, we're actually going to have to do heats.
Wow.
Which
Nice.
for a total destruction, I don't know if I've quite wrapped my head around that yet, how you do heats in a total destruction, but I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to plug the Speedway's social media and where people can find some more information on Western Speedway.
Yeah, westernspeedway.net. We try to keep that as up to date as possible. And then, of course, we've got our Facebook page where you can find just about everything that's going on at the Speedway. We always try to get it on the Facebook page. So to stay up to date with the Speedway, that's probably the best place to be.
All right, and we'll throw it to Chris for some updates on our social media where you can find us.
Yeah, Short Track Radio 1 on Facebook and Instagram, and then Miller Family Racing 71 on both Facebook and Instagram. For those people that don't know how to access this on their phone, go to if you have an Apple phone, every phone has it. It's a purple podcast app. Click on that, and then type in Short Track Radio. Please subscribe, like, share. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell everyone where we're at and how they can talk or listen to us. Also, we are on YouTube at Short Track Radio 1 as well. We aren't going to be doing SoundCloud anymore. You have to pay for more airtime, I guess, and I've already dumped enough money into this, so I'm not putting any more in. So.
Yeah, Chris's budget has been stretched to the max here with the podcast.
And yeah, that's about it.
All right, and I think Spreaker as well
is
our host.
Our host site is Spreaker.com. You can check that out. You can download it right from there, I believe. So
yes,
go check it out.
All right, and our thanks to Daryl Crocker for being our guest. And until we decide to post again, tune in, I believe, next Monday for another edition of Short Track Radio.